Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Tipplers,
the podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it.
On this episode, we read Judith Krantz's Scruples. You're not ready for this. It has every horrible thing in it that you should expect from a 70s blockbuster scandalous women's airport novel. So if you wonder if it has that in it, just assume that it does. Except, weirdly, it doesn't actually have any sexual assault. Surprising. It does have, like, some really reductive kind of descriptions of gay men and women. Oh yeah, actually, this is a book that does remember that there's lesbians. It's representation. So some very stereotypical style homophobia. But the big thing, the most concerning thing, is that this book is a DIY manual for how to get an eating disorder.
I will say, as someone who has disordered eating tendencies and has a history of eating disorder tendencies, this book was pretty triggering for me. So if this is something that you're currently battling, maybe skip this and skip the book itself and our episode, because the problem with it is that it's well done.
Yes.
Into where you're like, this makes sense.
If you have if so
your
glamorous.
mind, if your mind works that way, like mine kind of still carries over. I was like, you know what? This all makes complete perfect sense. And this is, you know what? Yeah, do it. Go for it. But I was like, oh, wait. Oh, so again.
So if this is something that you struggle with, let me tell you clearly that the book, it specifies like a number of calories. It's about an extreme eating restriction that's portrayed as extremely chic and French.
Yeah.
So, and it talks very specifically about exactly the foods and her iron discipline and, that sort of thing. So make your choices about whether that's something you even want to hear about. Don't read the book. If this is something that is at all an issue for you. I have never read a book that was this dangerous, I don't think, in terms of eating disorders.
It glamorizes it in a way of making it, this is how you really elevate yourself to the next level of glamour is, being a skinny bitch.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the wine that we're drinking, which is a Fat Bastard, a French wine, and one of my favorites. I got it because this book takes place in France a lot, and it's also how this book made me feel.
Yeah. Wow. Scruples. I've wanted to do this book. I've never read it, but I've wanted to do it since we started this podcast.
She has. She's been talking about this for, 4.5
Because it's famously like the women's, it's not technically a romance, although really it is. It's very much about love, and it has happy endings for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's one of those really big, like the kind of thing they made a TV movie about. By the way, Spider in the TV movie is played by Barry Bostwick.
It's what the at the time the reviews and everybody called a bonk buster.
What?
A bonk buster because it had sex and shopping.
Oh, wow.
So that's our new...
That's a terrible phrase.
I kind of love it now. I'm like, bonk buster, baby.
So it was the kind of thing that everybody read, that probably everybody made fun of people. I guess it was the 50 Shades of its time, except it's really well written in a lot of ways, honestly. It was a fucking blast. This book is a magnificent monster. It took me forever to read because I have to turn to my husband and read him like parts that I had just read because I couldn't believe that I just read it.
Oh, it's completely bonk bustery. It was published. This is Judith Krantz's first novel.
I can't believe that, by the way.
Published in 1978. And I'm going to tell y'all about old J. Krantz, a.k.a. Torchhead. Torchy was her nickname at Wellesley. So essentially, her character in this Billy is very much kind of based on her. She's born in New York City. Her dad was an advertising executive. She's Jewish, which tracks because she talks a lot about Jewish men in this book.
Yes.
And so she was kind of amazing at Wellesley. She had 3 goals: to date, to read every novel in the library, and to graduate. And Torchy, again, she got the dorm dating record as the only one to have 13 consecutive dates with 13 different men. Now, she didn't do that well in school, but
I can't imagine why not.
She moved to Paris, where she worked in fashion and doing public relations. Her childhood friend Barbara Walters introduced her to her future husband, Steve Krantz, at a 4th of July party. So this book is very
Oh, there's a big 4th of July party that comes up several times in this book. Oh my God, it's in the Hamptons.
And so she was, this is so cute. In 76, her husband decided to take flying lessons, and she decided to join him because she was afraid of flying. And after she conquered that fear, she decided to face other ones. And one of those was writing fiction. This was the first time she had done it since college. And so she just started writing books, and that's how Scruples came out 9 months later.
I am fascinated by her. I mean, because I am fascinated with this book. I'm obsessed with this book. And, like, she's obviously, like, God, wouldn't you like to have a drink with her? She's, I assume, just, like, coked out of her brain all the time. But that's how people actually look.
I mean, I would like to have a drink with her, but I'd also be terrified that she'd just be looking at you like you're a fat piece of shit.
Well, I mean, obviously she would be looking at me like, I'm a fat piece of shit. I mean, okay, moving on. So the appeal of this book, obviously, I mean, in addition to the fact that it's full of sex and that sort of thing, is that it's like one of those things like, let me tell you what it's really like. Let me give you the inside track on the fashion industry, the movie industry, and what the rich people do.
Yeah.
So
it's very take the doors off so you can see like inside the lifestyles of the rich and famous kind of situation.
And it's delightful for that. It's the kind of thing that's all brand names and all. And I had to look up a lot of this stuff because, you know.
And then she's like using half real people and half made up people.
Which is always super fun.
Yes.
She's not afraid to, like, you know, say something shitty about Barbara Streisand.
Oh, I know. She was like total. She fat shames the Streisand. And I was like, I know that you're powerful, but you're not Streisand powerful. That woman has a mall in her basement and clones her dogs. Judith, like, instead of Judith just died in her home, I'd be like, in 2019, I could see Babs just holding on to it,
and
like,
yeah, you won't know it when it comes, but you'll know it when it comes.
She's like getting Sarasota Wings of Gold, whatever. James Brolin out there having to like go out. You remember that show? He was on something Wings of Gold.
Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
No.
It was amazing.
But I mean, this book is very successful at doing that. It's also extremely, it's written in this very engaging style.
Yes.
She's
very good. You know what she has a very similar style to is kind of like a Sidney Sheldon.
Yes.
Like it's very snappy. It images very well. It feels like a movie. And it feels like a mini series.
So I would, of course, naturally compare this to Jackie Collins, who we read, but this is much more snappily written.
Yeah.
Like this is written by somebody who really knows. You know why? It's because she's a women's college girl.
That's what it is.
Yeah. But so I wanted to read you, just starting out, as this will just kind of tell you what kind of book this is, because it's a let me rip the doors off and show you things.
This could be a trigger warning itself.
Yeah, this is buckle up, bitches. All right. Did you know? Of all the male dress designers visible today in the world of American fashion, some 90%, if not more, are homosexual. They have a variety of ways of being gay. John Prince was individual in his solid British gentry style, noticeably masculine and tempered with good Midwestern roots. Others were austere functional gay. Functional gay. It's a hyphenated, functional gay. Given to wearing dark glasses at all times and dressed in a careful, unvarying uniform of a dark turtleneck and dark trousers, as if they had come out of the future by first-class spaceship. They lived in steel, plastic, and glass apartments, so spare and fine down that people felt tense just looking at photographs of their living rooms in which no trace of comfort was permitted. Then there is the sweet flock of Gatsby gays, young beauties who dress in perfectly cut navy blazers and white pants, innocent Ivy League open-necked pale blue shirts, and Shetland crew sweaters, impeccably ready for a yacht to sail in and anchor at their feet. There is also a block of elder statesman gays who have been secure for long enough to affect jeans and beards and amulets and strange-looking jackets without buttons. All of these designers are in enormous demand as guests and escorts by many of the powerful, but single, women in the country. Without her priceless list of gay reliables, few society hostesses could put together a party. There is also a tiny but influential married gay set, whose wives are invariably as decorative as they are clever. They make a religion out of the art of living well, possessing marvelously beautiful apartments and country homes in which they give inventive dinner parties on small round tables which are little museums of rare porcelain and cutlery. This is the group without which no major society party or important press junket is complete. Advancement in the world of fashion design is dictated by this gay mafia. He literally says gay mafia.
Like, she just talks about it. Like, and again, this book is not great for like perpetuating kind of this velvet mafia stereotype, but
it's also funny.
I know. I
like that's the thing. Like it's that's why it's probably actually more dangerous than the kind of thing that's just like gays are here to like sneak up and fuck you, because like it's funny and it's well observed. And I mean, you pictured every one of these people, right? Obviously. So I thought that was a good entry into the world of Scruples, because it's offensive. And yet you're like, this is kind of funny. I'm going to read it to somebody because I can't believe, like, Gatsby gays. Which one are you? Tag yourself.
Well, the Gatsby gay now, I think we could, the Gatsby gays is the talented Mr. Ripley gay.
Yes.
So, but yes. So, okay, let's jump into this behemoth.
Yes. Okay. So you have to understand that this is the kind of book that moves around in time.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll introduce our people and then start from the beginnings of their stories.
Yes.
Yeah. Billy is the main character of this, and Billy is the most fabulous thing you've ever seen in your fucking life.
She can't help it. She's just chic. She cannot, for the life of her, be unchic. Like, it just can't happen.
But she's also ridiculously rich. Just like ludicrously. She wears a pair of diamond earrings that have names.
Yeah,
the Kimberly twins.
The Kimberly twins.
Yes, they're 11 carats. And I would like you to pause this and look up how big 11 carats is. It's like a whole joint of your thumb.
I don't know how she didn't do, like, basically those things were like gauges in her ears.
Yeah, how did she
take them out? Because, like, she had big holes in her ears, I think.
Yeah, they'd be so heavy. But so she owns the most fabulous boutique in the world. It's called Scruples.
Yeah.
And so this is actually a business story.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
business and pleasure.
Yeah.
So she owns Scruples, which is a big fancy department store in Beverly Hills. Working within Scruples is Spider, aka Peter Elliott, because he is a white upper middle class man named Spider, and it's hilarious.
He's like a surfer blonde. He's like a Robert Redford type.
Yeah, but again, they call him Spider. It makes no sense.
I don't know. People have weird nicknames. I kind of like that it wasn't something sexy.
And then there is Valentine. Spider is kind of the head of
merchandising,
I guess so.
Sort of? Yeah.
Head of making Scruples cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Valentine is the buyer, or she was a buyer, and now she just designs couture.
Yeah, she's the couturier in residence.
Yes.
And they're honestly, they're great. So when I picture these people, actually, I had just seen The Hunger with Catherine Deneuve and Susan Sarandon. And okay, so Spider's not David Bowie. He's more like a Robert Redford type. Yeah. But that's who I picture, like the young and spunky but very fashionable young woman, and the extremely classy, very mannered in this way that she knows that everybody's looking at her all the time. Like,
but she's like the oldest that we like. She tops off with, like, we end her at 35.
Yeah, I know.
And they act like she's like 100. Like,
yes, it's amazing. And we know that she has just recently married her second husband, who is a movie producer. So that's kind of how it starts, and then it moves back in time.
Yeah. So we start with Billy's story. Billy grew up her name is Wilhelmina Winthrop, and she was called Honey as a child. Her dad, the Winthrops are a landed family in Boston. Her dad becomes a widower very young. He moves them into the suburbs.
He's a scientist, weirdly.
And
a microbiologist.
But they have no money. But, they're the poor relation in this very established Boston family.
And Billy, are you ready for this? Not only is she poor, she's also slightly chubby.
Oh, yeah. She tops out. She's like 5'10".
Mm-hmm. She's very tall.
She's 5'10", and they tell us, like, at her fattest that she is 218. Mm-hmm. And, people act like she is thundering down the sidewalk, stealing cakes, eating small children.
Yeah.
The way that it is written is not great.
And she's not just fat, she's sad because she's fat.
She is fat. Yeah, she's fat and sad.
So this is the part that is very concerning. Through several, she I guess gets a lot of charity from her, like, aunts that have a bit more money. They send her off to France.
Yeah, she goes to, like, boarding school, and then, like, for her graduation, after she gets done with school.
You need a year in France because everybody's tired of looking at you.
So she gets sent to this like French woman who is,
by the way, this is where if you're just like trying to avoid the eating disorder talk, stop now. Or if you're reading the book, stop when she goes to France and just pick it up when she leaves France.
So she goes to meet, we hear about Liliane, who is the nicest person on earth, until she opens the door. There's this like great big old fat girl, and she's like, oh God.
Yeah.
Like they're all disgusted. And so,
well, to be fair, okay, they don't eat a lot. Well, partly because they're French and very chic, and French people just know how to do things properly. But also because this is post-war France. It's in the 50s in France, and they literally are starving.
Yeah.
They kind of rely on these girls sent over by these Boston Brahmin families to have enough to eat.
So, she horrifies everybody by having 2 pieces of toast.
Yeah, literally. No, seriously. She took 2 pieces of toast and everybody freaked the fuck out.
Yes. And so she eventually, starts losing weight at a rate of 5 pounds a week, ladies.
It tells you that she's taking exactly 1,000 calories in.
Yeah, she is eating 1,000 calories, telling you what it is, and that she learns to be happy about the always slight full feeling that she feels.
It uses a lot of that, kind of the imagery you see all the time in anorexia stuff. Like, she feels light. She feels clear. She feels,
elegant.
Yeah.
Clean.
I don't think it says that her collarbones are like the wings of a swan, but that's the kind of thing. It feels like that. And the more she feels in control, which is funny because she's actually not in control at all. She's being fed what she's been given.
Yeah.
The more she feels in control, the more in control she is of her body, and her willpower is so exquisite, and it's that kind of narrative, and it is dangerous as fuck.
And we find out that she levels off at 127 pounds, and that she's the perfect size 8.
And she's for the rest of her life. When in fact, we all know. The strange thing about this book is that it only says cocaine once in this book. Meanwhile, cocaine clearly ghost wrote this book, okay?
Oh, yeah.
There is a cocaine-shaped negative space in this book.
Yeah.
Fish don't have a word for water. This book doesn't talk about cocaine.
My girl lost 75 pounds in 5 months. No big deal.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if she's doing cocaine in France, but...
I don't know. The thing is that she's also taking a modern dance class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she has a little bit of a love affair thing. What's kind of great is that she's not emotionally setting her cares that much on these men at this time. And that's funny because they say it's because she was fat. So she didn't have the teenage love affairs. And so she's learned to get used to disappointment. Which is stupid because she just has a very a sensible attitude towards, well, that didn't work out,
Yeah.
But so she goes home and she does not want to stay in Boston.
She doesn't want to be the fat girl that got skinny.
Yeah, which seriously, that'd be terrible. So she goes they'd always planned that she was going to go to secretarial school because it's not like she's going to have her own money. So she wasn't going to go, but then she realized that's one way to get out of Boston.
Yeah.
So she goes to New York City,
New York City, this great roommate, Jessie, and she goes to secretarial school, which is actually really fucking hard. Yeah. I imagine it was at the time. You had to learn shorthand. Yeah. So Jessie is the opposite of her. That's the thing, That's how women can be friends in these books if they don't look the same.
Yeah.
And Jessie teaches her the beauty of begging Jewish men.
Yeah, because your parents don't know them. Yeah. You don't move in the same circles. If you're a WASP and you're banging Jewish dudes, you can do whatever you want to do, and they're never going to want to marry you because their mothers wouldn't allow it. So it's great. You can just bang them and have fun.
Yeah. So she gets her her 1-year course and, has a good friend, has some love affairs under her belt. And she gets a job with the Ikehorn Corporation. And it pays really well. It pays more than any of the other secretarial places. She goes in and befriends the head secretary, and, they kind of become little compatriots. And it's, she's got a little mother figure to kind of hang out with. And Mr. Ellis Ikehorn, he travels all over. He's 60, but he's got the body of a 40-year-old and the mind of a toddler, according to his doctor.
Well, according to his doctor, he starts to have some health problems, which sounds to me like he needs therapy. But the doctor says, Ellis, since I've known you, you've only talked about 2 things, business and pussy. This is a direct quote from this book. And you're obviously not getting enough pussy. So he prescribes him pussy.
Yes.
But like Ellis is like, it's hard. You have to go find it.
And he's like, the way he talks about it, he's like, well, I get it like 3 or 4 times a week. I'm like, how much more should this man, like this guy who is like, and they kept talking about how he is like in 5 years was going to be eligible for, or 2 years, like eligible for Social Security. They kept bringing up Medicare. It's like, how much more do you want this man to be like doing it? Like, what?
Regular exercise, Courtney, is important.
I know.
You're supposed to get pussy and do crossword puzzles.
I guess. I was, So he shows up to the office. And, he and Billy meet each other. And at first, it's not like a lightning bolt kind of thing.
And you know what? This is actually not gross. I was expecting, because there comes a time where he needs a secretary right this second because they need to go down to Barbados.
Baby.
So, of course, I was immediately thinking about the book that we had that took place in Schmarshmuda. Where that was gross with an employer. But no, he really wants a secretary.
Yeah. And so they go down. He's like, you can buy everything you need down there, but we just got to leave now.
Yeah.
So they get down there, they do the business, and then a hurricane comes and they're like stuck around, and then they do the business.
Mm-hmm. And he is 100% not making any gross boss secretary moves on her. She's the one. She like crosses that hallway and knocks on his door.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ellis is a completely non-problematic except for, everything else. Dude, to my vast amazement, I have to say, when this popped up, I was like, oh, this is about to get nasty.
Yeah, but they had, very nice, consensual, like everything, great sex. He was horrified to find out. He was like, oh, you're like 27. She's like, I just turned 21. She forgets her birthday a lot in this book.
I bet she does. It's all the cocaine.
She forgot her birthday with Ellis during the hurricane. That was her birthday. She forgets her book later with Vito when they're working on the movie. Mm-hmm. So,
well, the important thing that you had to know about Ellis, other than all that, is that he is shockingly wealthy.
He's like he's basically like.
So he's like, let's get married. And she's like, okay, fuck, let's get married. Yeah. And so now she's one of the richest women in the world. And suddenly she's in all of the fashion.
Because remember, she's tall. And now that she's skinny, she just can't not be chic.
She was one of the most beautiful women and the most well-dressed women in the world. Because she also learned about fashion in Paris. Once she got skinny enough that like Dior wouldn't, I guess, kick her out of make her go to the
get out of here, fatso.
Yeah. So she lives this charmed life in all the gossip columns and for several years. And it's amazing, and they love each other in this very genuine way. And then he has a stroke.
Yeah.
So, and it's bad. And so she realizes like, well, okay, this is life-changing. You gotta sit down for a minute and figure out what we're gonna do. And so, she organizes, they go and they live, because he needs the climate or whatever. They go and they kind of like almost squirrel themselves away in their vineyard house in California. Yeah. And she's never spent that much time in California before.
They ended up being, they're near they buy a separate estate that's like true. On the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah. So, because he loves his vineyard, yeah.
Because she can still go down to shop. And that's where this whole idea for Scruples comes from, is like her going to just shop. Because
there's no real good shopping in Beverly Hills.
Also, like there's nothing for her to do. Mm-hmm. So she just goes and shops and is like, oh, I could do this.
And she just keeps buying clothes that she doesn't wear because she has to, when you are an incredibly famously rich person and your husband, who is much older than you, has a stroke and is incapacitated, you have to look pristine in the public eye, right? And she understands this, and so she would really like to fuck some dudes, but she would never be unfaithful to Ellis if Ellis, were not essentially.
He gets worse and worse every year, and
it's awful. It really.
She basically just starts hiring hot ass male nurses to like get her rocks off with.
And they're all gay. So which I think is interesting about this. They're all gay combat vets, like a combat medic vets. But then she's like, wait a minute, I could just hire like a straight one.
Yeah.
Huh. Could have done that this whole time.
Yeah. So she ends up just hiring these dudes and getting her business on.
But she will fire them with a quickness, with a large settlement.
Yeah, when she gets tired of them or feels like it's going.
And she's very careful with the power dynamic, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you don't start acting no,
Yeah,
you don't
they make
step
her
to
wait or whatever. Yeah.
Like, no, fuck you. Fuck you entirely. Yeah.
Yes, this is So while all this is going on, we're learning more about Valentine and Spider. We find out that Spider is the good old American boy who's from California and he has like 9 sisters or something insane. He loves women. He's one of those that's like, I just love women, all kinds and shapes and form, and I can talk to women. And he wants to become a photographer.
He, and in fact, is going pretty successfully in his photography career.
So he leaves California to go to New York and gets like a little assistant job and, you know, starts moving up. And he lives in this like cool, funky warehouse, you know, funky warehouse district. And he meets his neighbor, who is this French woman she's French American. She grew up in France, but her family is like Irish American.
She has flaming red hair and like impossible curls. And
yes, and her name is Valentine. She grew up with her mother in France, where her mom worked as a seamstress for one of these like big,
Balmain. Yeah. So she pretty much grew up in a fashion house.
Yes,
which is of course invaluable experience for her, and is one of the things that gives us a window into, like, you know, the cutters and the pressers and like all that. Like this is the kind of granularity you get in this book about how these couture houses work. It's great. I loved it. I loved all that stuff. Yeah. But eventually her mom dies, and so of course she is the most talented designer you've ever seen, but her ideas are just too, you know, they're too ultra.
They're too modern for, you know, the 1960s or whatever.
And to be fair, obviously, if you want to sell, you know who buys couture dresses? Rich people who are like 55, okay? Like they don't necessarily want your insane Met Gala project, okay? No. You know? So she has to kind of learn that. She has to, through her journey in the fashion industry, she has to kind of learn, like, you know, what people will actually want to wear and how do you interpret your designs in this way.
Yeah, so she and Spider, but she calls him Elliot, which is his last name because she's a grown-ass person and is not calling a man Spider. They end up becoming, like, have this, like, really good, solid friendship.
Well, and they're both like kind of in the same part in their careers, and they're both experiencing. What's great about this book is that everybody trying to work their way up in this book, in these industries, these art and magazine and all industries, constantly have their work stolen by people above them, which I'm sure is, you know, all the time, right? But like, she's always having her work, like all the credit taken from her. He's always having all the credit taken from him, and that's just like the way it is, and they just fucking gut it out, right?
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, you're hoping that one day you'll land like the big fish.
Yeah. So she ends up like... she ends up having this affair with this guy, Hartman, that she thinks, you know, she's like, this is great, but something's missing. Mm-hmm. And she has been, and
he's her boss, by the way. There is that gross boss employee kind of business. He's her boss at the fashion house, and I haven't heard this one in a while. It's got that weird stereotype that if there's something suspect about a guy who likes too much doggy style, and yes, indeed, he does turn out to be gay.
Yeah, and he's got this thing going on with the quintessentially bitchy
Sergio
fashion assistant who.
Sergio's the designer that's stealing all the credit from all of her work.
And then he goes to a reverse glory hole.
Okay, obviously somebody told Judith Krantz about glory holes, and she kind of had to maybe fill in some of the gaps herself, because she's got the glory hole being on the stall door. So what? You're just pretending like you're casually checking your watch, standing extremely close to I mean, like, this is not... Judith, how do you think this works?
It was very strange. I was like, and then the guys talk to each other beforehand.
Like, that's the whole point of a glory hole. Like, it's anonymous.
Oh, hey. And then Sergio is really gross. He's a really gross characterization. Anyway, she finds out that the guy that she's sleeping with is gay and is really in a long-term relationship that is toxic as hell with Sergio. Mm-hmm.
And she finds out by eavesdropping on, Sergio's mad at him for sleeping with her. And he's like, yeah, is this what you want? And then he drops his pants. And then, the other Jew just, drops to his knees and gives him I
can't stop it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And she's like, this is a work day, okay? It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And she's standing outside her boss's office, listening to him fuck her boss, or her, mini boss. Fuck me, you know? That whole thing was not great.
Yeah, she does a storm out and she gets a job with somebody else.
That's the guy who I mentioned in the gay taxonomy.
Yes.
And he is he's one of those guys, I guess like a Warhol kind of guy, in that he's always looking for like the bright, exciting young people, and so she's one of them. But like as of course 100% like, you know, putting his name on all of her stuff.
Oh yeah.
But he kind of like does a really good job of kind of teaching her like, yeah, I know you don't want to like not make your own stuff, but this is how we make stuff that sells.
Yeah. So one day, you know, we're getting back to Billy. Ellis finally passes away, and she bangs it out with it. Her plan is to like, she's gonna cremate Ellis and pour him over the vineyard that they own, because that was his favorite place. And so she hires this like little plane guy. It's not her usual plane guy, because, you know, she has a jet, but she's got to go in a shit plane. She's got to go in one of those.
It has to go slow enough she can pour ashes out of it, as opposed to being on the
so like as soon as she's done with that, she bangs the pilot.
And it calls his testicles paunchy globes.
Yes.
You're not getting that out of your head, are you?
Paunchy globe.
I promise. Next time we make stickers, I'm going to make one that says, "Ask me about my paunchy globes."
Paunchy globes.
Patreon, subscribe.
And so it's kind of like the start of her new life. And so she starts Scruples. And at first it's like people are coming, but then it just, you know, kind of fades out.
Yeah, and she's terrified of the trade press calling her a failure. I mean, like, because they've already noticed that she's got stuff on sale, okay? This is bad. And so she is desperate to turn it around.
So how she meets up with Valentine is she goes to the designer Prince's for just rich lady outfits. And he's not there. And Valentine had been taking advantage of that, because she was going to have some of her dresses actually fit, you know, by models and stuff like that while he wasn't in the office. So Billy shows up just out of the blue and is like, "Show me what you got." And like,
oh, she's wearing one of her own dresses. And Billy's like, "What's that? Where'd you get that?"
Yeah, because she's like, "I don't want any of that. I don't want any of this. And nothing." And she's like, "What about that dress?" And, you know, Valentine's like, like, she's like, "It's not, this is mine." And she's like, "Well, I want it." And she's like, "But it's not for you." And she's like, "I want the dress," which gets Valentine fired.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the thing is, Billy kind of rats her out, and I don't think she realizes. Billy is, like, at this point, very disconnected from the real world. So Billy gets her fired. And then just put a pin in that, because, like, when Valentine, like, "I can't believe you did that," this is how Valentine gets hired. But the reason Spider is out of work at this point is that Spider found this amazing model, Melanie. And she's just, like, unlike anything. She's got, like, maybe 2 brain cells just kind of buzzing around in there, and sometimes they hit each other, make a spark. I don't know what's up with Melanie. She's one of those very dreamy, she does a different drug, I guess, maybe.
She's like, she wants to be a model because she wants to know what people see when they see her face. Is like this very weird, but and then she gets into acting through. So Elliot / Spider has been
call him Spider. I know you hate it, but that's his name in this entire book. It says the word Spider 1,000 times.
So Spider has been doing like working essentially for like Anna Wintour.
Yeah.
Like doing the Vogue cover, and he's got the big September issue of Vogue with Melanie's face. But right now it's March, so he's just got to find shit to do until that comes out.
And he can't really work with her because if it's like a big unknown coming out in the September issue, you want to keep them fresh.
Yes.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, Harriet is in the lesbian cabal.
Harriet's the woman who works. She is the fashion editor.
Anna Wintour, although, I mean, I think this is too early for it to be Anna Wintour.
And Anna Wintour is like editor-in-chief. This is the fashion editor, I think.
I have a passage to read if you are prepared for this.
I'm ready. Give it to me.
They were talking, this is about like speculation about what Harriet Toppingham did for sex, it says. They had no means of knowing that Harriet was a member of the most hidden of all major sexual subgroups, an international network of middle-aged and powerful lesbians. It capitalizes lesbian.
I wish that there was a lesbian cabal. I really wish that there was a lesbian cabal.
I wonder if they would take like a straight auxiliary member, right?
Can I just be on the team? Like,
it gets better. Women who range from the late 30s to the early 60s. I guess older than that, nobody has sex, right? No. Women in high positions of authority or fame, all of whom know each other or know of each other, whether they live in New York, London, Paris, or Los Angeles. These women include legendary actresses, famous literary agents, brilliant industrial and interior designers, successful theatrical producers, top advertising executives, and creative artists in many fields. They form a loosely connected but supportive group which has none of the visibility of the highly placed male homosexuals in these same occupations. Wow. Oh, here we go. Yeah, many of them have been solidly married for many years. Some of them are devoted mothers and grandmothers. Unless you have seen such a woman without her mask, you might easily know her for 20 years and not have the faintest suspicion of her strongest sexual orientation. What Judith is ripping back the cover so you can see in the light is the idea that there are lesbians who are not young.
But I think also it's
and that they belong to the same symphony group.
She's ignoring that you can only become a lesbian once you have hit 35. Once you start getting,
you stop when you're 60.
When you start getting
you gotta hand it back.
You start getting the informational flyers for AARP. But once you're qualified in AARP for 10 years, you're too late. Yeah, so it's there's a very finite little line.
So anyway. Yeah,
these ladies are all shopping at Orvis.
Yes, you shut up at Orvis.
J. Jill,
hey,
sensible separates,
casual corner, and petite sophisticate.
Oh my god!
So.
Yes. Anyway, Harriet falls in love with Melanie as well.
But Harriet is terrified that her secret, that she's obviously a lesbian and everybody looking at her knows she's a lesbian because she's got that cabal tattoo, is a lesbian. So
she gets drunk at a 4th of July party and kind of Melanie is crying saying, I had a bad day. And she kisses her on the cheek and Spider sees it and she's like, I've got to destroy him.
Which I guess Judith Krantz does know about making drunk mistakes at 4th of July.
She does. So she gets him, she sends Melanie out to make movies and basically blacklists him.
Yeah, I mean, in a really nasty way. This is actually the only really mean and shitty thing almost pretty much anybody does in this book, but it's really pretty shitty.
Evil lesbian.
Yeah.
So both of them are jobless. Both Valentine and Spider are jobless. And Billy... She calls up Valentine and is like, I'm sorry, I just heard what happened. This was not my intention. And, Valentine is half Irish, half French, and all hothead.
And this is amazing.
What should you do? Just cussing her out in French and sacre bleu, this whole thing. And it's just.
And she bawls out,
what did you expect to happen? You did this, you were too rich. You do not know,
That's Italian.
It doesn't matter, because she's not really,
No. This is all fake.
So,
she blusters out jobs, hundreds of thousands of job for her and Spider, sight unseen for Scruples.
Yeah, because, what happens is, Billy's like, well, I want to make it up to you. I want you to come be a buyer at my store. And she's like, I cannot leave without my partner.
Spider is the best merchandiser of all.
And as she is wheeling and dealing and getting him, she is getting $200,000. No, she's getting $100,000 a year, which I did the thing. It's $520,000 a year.
She's also getting a percentage, though.
And then she negotiates for Spider to get $75,000 a year. Again, 1978. Pretty good. So they move out there, and
they agree to these terms of this contract where essentially, they get a couple years and that's it, and then she can boot them to the curb if they don't.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of back and forth about the contract.
There's a clause in there that she could just fire them at any time. Then again, we got our girl be like sacre bleu.
So she reads everything. Good for her.
She's the best. So she meets this lawyer, Josh. And, they sort of start canoodling and he is married. And it works for Valentine because she can compartmentalize it and it's fine.
Yeah. So, they have lucked themselves into this job that neither of them know how to do, by the way. Buying is not at all the same thing as couture design. Okay, so, Spider has never merchandised anything.
But he's got a good eye and he knows what to.
No, this is one of those books where either you have good taste or you don't. And these people have this amazing, impeccable taste.
They're just taste makers.
They are. And so the thing is that the reason why Billy thinks that this can work is that she's like, women in California have money, but they have no taste. It is the most, you'll never see so many rich women wearing jeans anywhere in the world. And I guess, I mean, like at the time that may very well have been the case. They don't have anywhere to wear clothes to, and they don't like have anywhere to buy clothes, it seems. So what she has done is that she's bought this incredibly expensive piece of real estate, and she has recreated the Dior atelier in it. And Spider walks in, like 2 seconds in, and he's like, this is all wrong. You're going to have to tear it out. It cost you about $1 million, but it'll be worth it. And she's like, now she has looked Spider up because she's not that fucking stupid. And she's like, she's not going to say this, but she's like, nobody's ever heard of you. You are completely a fraudster. You are like Hundo P, a grifter, all this. And I'm going to get rid of the two of you as soon as possible. It was a mistake. But over the course of the day, they convince her that like, no, okay, this is not working and you actually have to change it.
Yeah.
And so to give them a couple weeks to actually figure out what they need to do. And so they spent a couple weeks like looking at all the other boutiques. And what they've come up with is that, okay, you had to have somewhere where people want to spend all day long. Okay.
I felt like it was very much what they come up with.
It's a fantasy.
In theory, it's supposed to be like a Fred Siegel, where it's supposed to be cool. Mm-hmm. Just a cool, because that's Fred Siegel's whole thing is like, this is where the cool people go to shop. Mm-hmm. This is like, it's a little funky, it's a little out there, but it's like where all the people that are not geriatric, whatever, like.
It's supposed to be an experience.
Yes.
Where you enjoy spending all this time. So it has a kitchen, for example, because which is smart, they know that if you leave, you're probably not coming back.
The most accurate thing that is said in this whole damn thing is Spider talking about having a restaurant, because he's like, women spending all day trying on clothes and their blood sugar is going to drop.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to get hangry.
They're going to get hangry and they have to leave. They're not going to come back once they leave. And I was like,
that's right.
I was like, this man knows.
So, but what they end up with is the tackiest sounding store. Okay, so the bottom of it is just a Cracker Barrel. Okay, like it's the first floor.
They call it the country store.
It's a fucking Cracker Barrel. It's where you can buy, clutter for your house.
What did they say? It was like they were talking about you could get like a Spode dish, like a candy dish filled with butterscotch.
I'm like, that's a Cracker Barrel. But they only sell, there's no clothes sell downstairs. There's accessories, handkerchiefs, jewelry for sure, but there's no clothes. And there's actually like a lounge for the guys because, of course, you don't want your husband being like, back in his watch. No. You want your husband to be fat and happy.
They got a little place off to the side of
it's like with the chairs at the mall.
Like a place off to the side of the Gigot apartment to go like drink and like smoke cigars.
Yes. So you might even spend your whole time at Scruples on that first floor buying handkerchiefs and I guess doing that little peg game. But upstairs is where the clothes are bought and sold. And so it's not just Valentine's couture, but like she's kind of the heart and soul of it. And she's what classes the joint up, I guess. But all these dressing rooms are like,
oh my God,
themed.
It's like a hotel. It's like one of those motels that have
like a love hotel in Japan.
Heart-shaped tub.
Yeah, so like one of them might be like like Roman like slave girls or like whatever. Or like one of them will be Arabian Nights and one of them will be like you're in a themed dressing room, which is huge and has a couch for you to lay down on, and they will bring you food there. And it has like like White House Black Market and stores like that will always have shoes ready for you to put on with stuff.
Yeah,
and accessories because but this is not even about selling the shoes or the accessories. This is about you wore your comfortable shoes, and so now you need to see how this ball gown is going to look like in.
But then the thing about it is no woman could leave the upstairs without getting a Spider seal of approval.
And sometimes he'll tell you, no, you're not allowed to buy that. It looks terrible on you.
And I'm like, you know what, motherfucker? I don't want to dress like Fran Fine.
But he might see that in you. I don't know. I thought it sounded.
I can't believe
you quite.
The
fantasy.
Can you imagine if a man told you what to walk out of the store? You know those pants you got, those library pants is what I'm gonna call them.
He would love my sex pants. Spider would have picked those out for me personally.
You think? See, this is what I'm saying. He's be like, nope.
Courtney came to see me at work, and I rounded the corner, and she had to sit down because I bought some pants.
They're very fun. I like them. I'm just saying that I can see him looking at us and be like, you chubsters can't go out in those fun clothes.
I assume that there's a door guard and that they were not allowed in.
Bitch, you got to go put on a curtain. All you can wear is a curtain and a cone of shame for your fatness.
Yeah. Although, I mean, this is definitely a book that understands, like, again, that most people who have the money to buy this kind of clothes are women who have relatively pedestrian tastes. They're not avant-garde fashion wearers. They want to feel beautiful. They have a lot of money. And
you saw those the latest round of Fashion Week? Mm-hmm. I'm not wearing that shit.
No, nobody wears that shit. I sent you a picture of there's a wine bag. Yeah.
So God, but yeah. So but they have turned Scruples around.
So this is, I mean, the whole thing is they spend so much time explaining the concept of this thing because it's supposed to feel like such a great fantasy.
And you know what I do appreciate is that Billy's like, yeah, all right, Billy's a good loser.
Yeah.
When she's convinced of something, she's like, okay, we'll do it your way.
Yeah, because she does not seem like she would be. I thought she was going to be more up in her feelings about it because this was all her idea. I mean, I would be hurt.
Yeah, she's named Scruples after her, dear dead Aunt Cornelia, who is from Boston and had all these scruples. And Billy's like, I don't care. I don't want scruples. I don't have any scruples left to give. So I guess what she's saying is the store is really called Shits because she doesn't have any shits left to give.
It's the field in which she grows her fucks. So that's kind of brings it back to almost where we started the whole book off, except that we have not yet met her second husband.
Oh, Vito.
Vito. So she goes to the Cannes Film Festival because somebody said it's fun. And then she's like, let's go to the movies.
A woman named Susan. She listened to a woman named Susan. Susan's like, oh, come. Susan's husband is like a network executive or something. And she's like, come on, it'll be fun, Billy. It'll be a good time. You need to get out of the house.
And then, so Vito is this amazing movie producer. And the reason he's a producer, did we mention that Judith Krantz's husband is a movie producer?
Yes, he's a producer too.
So it's about you don't know what producers
We meet Vito a little bit earlier because we meet a woman that ties all this together is Maggie, who, if you know, now that we know that Judith is friends with Barbara Walters.
Yeah, this makes more sense.
Maggie is a television personality who got her start at Cosmo.
Mm-hmm. And Spider fixes her whole style because she's a little tiny lady with big old titties. Yep. And so I know this actually might not be great for us at Scruples because she really liked a really super ornamented, very flashy,
Fran Fine from The Nanny. But she gets told she can't wear that anymore. And he's like, I just put her in forgettable dresses.
Well, because honestly, when you were doing television journalism.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah. Now, if I walked in with it, they'd be like, ma'am, we don't have a menswear department. I can sell you a handkerchief in your size.
Your lumberjack line. I'm from the lesbian cabal.
I flash my secret.
We're here to check up on you guys, see what's going on. Let me find your dowdy pantsuits.
We seek an alliance.
So Maggie is super fun, but Maggie she's had a little bit of a thing with Vito. She helped him cover up a murder.
Yes.
Of one of the stars of one of his movies.
No, it was a stuntman. The murder was committed by one of the stars.
Yes. Yeah. The star commits the murder. I mean, I feel bad for the murdered guy. But here's the thing. The star is all like, we got to bury him at sea. If we don't bury him at sea, and Vito's like, well, I got to. There's no...
We got a movie to shoot. Come on, let's go.
So they just dump this guy in the ocean, and we find out that he's murdered the guy. And so
this is the closest this book comes to sexual assault. Vito's idea...
No,
Maggie's idea is that what happened was the stuntman who had been having sex with the star,
the star was having sex with the other star, and the stuntman...
No, the star, the male star is gay. And he was having sex with the stuntman. And then the stuntman then also went and had sex with the female star.
Oh, okay.
And then, so in a fit of rage...
There was a pistol whipping.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, he murdered him, but it's okay because the story that Maggie came up with and got the female star to stick with is that this poor stuntman had been raping her. And the male star came in and fought him off, and then he died. He fell and hit his head later.
Yeah.
So it's good publicity for the picture, but it doesn't matter because the picture doesn't even do well, and it sucks anyway.
Anyway, so Maggie, the story does Maggie, a turn better because she's able to go from doing like Cosmo stories to being an actual an actual like interview journalist,
like the prestige journalist job.
So now we know how Barbara Walters got her job. She covered up a gay murder in
Mexico when everybody was shitting their pants.
Yes, like she's
don't
like,
forget that part.
I'm Barbara Wawa and I've got it.
Yeah,
like
I don't think Maggie would have been like that with Dolly Parton though.
No.
Anyway, so so then. Eventually, then later, Billy meets Vito at con, and then like Billy, the naive girl. It's like my mom when she went to the Carolina Cup, which is a horse race here in town, outside of town. And then my mom was like, "Well, where's the horses?" And everybody looked at her like, "Horses? We come here to drink." But yeah, so she meets this guy, and remember that her first husband was much older. This guy is like the 70s appropriate amount of older.
Yeah, she's
like 10 years older than her.
Yeah, she's in her, like, when this all, like, kicks off, she's, like, 33, and he's maybe, like, 40.
Yeah, so, like, he's much closer in age, and he is magnetic. And, of course, he's got that, like, movie thing.
He's Italian.
But she, of course, she's like, look, I have all this money. I'm gonna have all this money. And they fall in love, but he's like, no, I don't want to be your kept man. And everybody's gonna say that I'm your kept man. And she's like, yeah, but I want to marry you. And he's like, I don't want to be your kept man. And they're sort of in an impasse. And they don't really honestly work it out that well. They just kind of...
She finally just says, like, look, man, I'm rich. And you know what? Even if I didn't want to be rich, which is stupid, I'm going to be
wealthy.
Rich.
She's not even rich. Yeah, she's got, like, the,
Yeah, she's got, like, Bezos money almost.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, she couldn't get rid of it if she wanted.
Yeah, and that's what she was like, you can either, like, and she's like, she does kind of a genius thing. She's like, what makes you a pussy, essentially?
This is what people think about you.
Is this how you always get an Italian man, is to call him that, is that you're worried about what people are going to say. And he's like, oh, you're right, So he's like, we'll get married, but you can't buy me I don't even know, it's like a car.
Yeah.
And she's like,
fine, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. So they get.
So yeah, and she has not met him while he's doing a movie, and they get married very quickly. So what she doesn't understand is what making a movie is like. It is a big job that is 100% consuming, and it's not cute or anything else.
He buys like the rights to this French book.
It's the most amazing thing in the world. It's the most tender, the most sensitive.
Yeah, so he buys it, and he's like, I'm going to make this movie. We're calling it Mirrors, and we're going to Mendocino.
And so she's all excited, like, oh, okay, well, we'll eat in these cute little restaurants after you're done filming. And
she's like packing for it. She's like, my shoe bag is full.
I'm only going to take 3 bags. And I mean, that's like it's going to be really casual, so I think I only need 3.
What is hilarious is
which I assume is like traveling with you.
It is very much. But they describe Mendocino like it is essentially
like a wild west town.
Yes, and if you look at pictures of it, it is perfectly little quaint, like cute, better, like community. She gets there and she is just horrified by all of it. She's like, this is so boring because all you do is sit there and watch people set things up. The food is gross. She's like, all she can eat is Jell-O and cottage cheese.
Because she won't eat food because she's terrified of getting fat.
Yes.
The food is probably great, but she won't let herself eat food. So,
And then, the first day there, she's like in white linen trousers and a white fancy sweater and like a white hat and white shoes, and she falls into a fucking bog, essentially.
Which is actually probably good for her because it gives the crew a certain fellow feeling with her.
Well, they don't
know how to deal with it.
And so she does that, and she's miserable. She's just miserable. And then,
he's not paying attention to me.
Well, then what
she
happens?
Can't handle not being paid attention to.
There's 2 stars of the movie, and they don't matter. Then there's a co-star, this woman named Dolly, and Dolly, for all that we can tell,
She's described very confusingly.
Dolly is like take the body of Dolly Parton and put it on Shelley Duvall's face. Like she is a long-necked, very oddly like cute-faced woman. Like you feel like from the neck up, she's very ostrich, and then from the like tits down. She's just like, oh, bam.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, just the way that who is Judith Krantz imagining? I'm not sure, but she's like she's a comedic actress who's getting kind of her big break in this.
Yeah,
and she's just delightful.
Again, it's Shelley Parton,
and she eats fucking food, and Billy is like,
but then she tells Billy because she's like the first day she doesn't know who Billy is.
No,
she's like they're at craft services like that.
She doesn't read Women's Wear Daily,
and she's like, this looks gross. Let's go over to a place over there. So she's just eating pastrami sandwiches,
and she assumes that. The Billy's like a script girl or something. Yeah.
And then Billy's like, oh, I'm the
producer's wife.
And she's like, oh, the producer's wife. But they end up being best friends. And it's really great.
It is truly great.
And you do kind of feel like Billy starts caring a little bit less about food.
Yeah, I would like to think that. Because, like, you know, here's Dolly, like, eating for pleasure. And there is no pleasure in food in this book.
Yeah.
You know, except for, like, a Dolly. And so, yeah, it's a positive experience.
Like, the sandwiches Dolly eats are amazing. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And then, so, the guy that is the executive of the company that's making the film starts to try to do a flex on Vito because the only reason that he funded the film was because he was pissed at his wife because she was talking about Billy and Vito. And so now he's like, well, I need to get my money back.
There's a clause in the contract that says that he can just take the film.
Yeah. If they're over budget. Yeah. And so like he tries to like railroad in and just take it, but they end up like,
it's a caper.
Yeah, they essentially steal the movie. And they go to Billy's house that's all like armed up to the teeth, and they start all working on the film together.
And Billy, who has hitherto been like, movies are not what I thought they were. This is miserable. Nobody's paying attention to me. I just married. And okay, to be fair, she doesn't get any time with her husband before this happens, you know?
No, I mean,
and so she's feeling very hard done by. But she's like, they're like, we need a script editor.
Yeah.
Or a script
no, like a note taker.
Yeah, like essentially the person who does like types up all the takes notes of the script, like a script continuity, all this stuff. And she's like, oh no, I'll do that because I do shorthand. I am actually
it's like as they're
a qualified secretary.
As they're like watching the dailies and putting the film together, is the person who can like just listen to their rapid fire thing about the notes of what needs to be done.
So a secretary, a movie secretary. Yeah. And she's like, no, I want to do that because I want to be involved.
And he's like, well, you gave us the house. She's like, I can do more than give you the house. Mm-hmm.
And she is actually excited. And she's using a skill that is not her beauty, her skinniness, or her money. And she saves the movie with this because
they send like,
the cinematographer has to leave. He's being threatened. And she's like, no, I got all of his notes. And they finish the movie.
They spend like 3 weeks, night and day working on this thing. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you know, Dolly's just like, we find out Dolly's pregnant.
She like her ex-husband is like a
rodeo star, and she's like, he
came through town. You know,
like, what are you gonna do?
Dolly is this very kind of happy-go-lucky.
But then she's also like, so what's interesting about when Dolly tells Billy she's pregnant. Billy's watching Dolly just go ham on some food. And it wasn't it was one of those where you're like, it wasn't, she had a sandwich. She had like 4 sandwiches and she's like, you think I could get another one? And Billy is like, what is going on with you? She's like, preggers. And she's like, what? And then she's like, Billy's at first like, and it's really cute because she's like, well, do you need a godmother? And she's like, yeah, because she's like, I'm going to take care of this baby so hard, you know.
It's great.
And, but you see Dolly just like, not caring about how much weight she gains during the pregnancy, and Billy kind of seeing that a little bit. It was kind of like interesting.
Yeah. Certainly I do think that like Billy was taking something in, even if not like necessarily consciously during all this, because what happens later, which we'll tell you. But so anyway, Mirrors comes out, and the thing is, like, the studio is so fucking pissed. Like they had sent, oh my god, so many lawyers, and they sent like. All sorts of stuff. But like, so the movie comes out and they're just gonna bury it, except for they're doing a big Pickwick Papers movie, but it went over budget and didn't get finished. And so they have all these theaters spot out. So they have to have something to put in this theater. So they put in Mirrors.
And what Mirrors does is it My Big Fat Greek Weddings.
Yes, exactly. So like, and the clue that it was going to do that is the executives all went with their secretaries and the secretaries all cried.
Yes. And so all of a sudden, you know, the Oscar talk starts happening. Mm-hmm. and the executives aren't going to give money for, mirrors to be considered. Like,
and they want to move it into like second tier theaters. Like there's this whole thing. It goes as much into the movie industry, and
it really does. I was like, oh, okay. And so, anyway, what ends up happening? It doesn't matter why or how. Mirrors gets nominated for an Oscar. The cinematographer gets nominated. The director gets nominated, and Dolly gets nominated.
But so now Dolly, we have a fashion problem. Because, of course, it's like Cobra Kai. All problems are karate problems, but all problems with Scruples are fashion problems. They're afraid that, the Academy will not vote for an unwed mother.
Yeah.
So they're trying to keep her pregnancy a little under wraps.
They got to get her a keeper, a minder.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Valentine is having to design 1,000 dresses.
Yeah, because again, Oscars, major fashion problem.
Yes. So she's got to do Billy's dress. She's got to do
all of these people.
Maggie's dress. Maggie? Was it Maggie?
Yeah.
And then she's got to do Dolly's dress. Meanwhile, the guy that she's been having this very safe affair with is all like, I'm in love with you. I'm going to leave my wife. And she's like, how about you don't do that? And he's like, well, what if you just tell me that maybe.
Tell me you'll think about it.
And she's like, fine, I'll think about it. And he's like, that means I'm going to leave my wife. And she's like, what? And so.
Yeah, he thinks that he's going to make decisions for her. And she's like, no, you're absolutely not. Get the fuck out of my house.
And then, Spider, Melanie tries to show back up for a hot minute, and he's like, he does the all right, we'll do it. And he's like, oh, I'm not into you.
Yeah.
So these two get into a major argument, and they're like,
and Spider says some really fucking mean shit about that.
She said some mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is a vicious argument.
And they're both like, fine. It was kind of like, it's like at the, once this is done, we'll be done, Once the Oscars are over, we're over. But then you get, all of a sudden, they decide that Dolly needs a minder.
Yeah, well, because they have to keep Dolly's pregnancy a secret until for the voting.
Billy had taught Dolly the secret of Jewish men. Mm-hmm. So they find for her a little, her minder is a new young, publicist named Lester Weinstock. And they and you hear Lester's all talking about how the women that he loves are willowy, severe looking women, and then all of a sudden the girl that opens his door is
giantly pregnant.
Dolly Parton on Shelley Duvall's face. And she's like, hey, come on. She's gotten this used cookbook of Jewish celebrities,
and they're all puns.
It's
oh my God,
Davis Jr.'s donuts, and she's like, "Hey, you want to come in and have corned beef and hash?" And he's like, "Okay," and he essentially never leaves.
Yeah, he falls 100,000% in love with her. It is great.
So cute.
But then these are the two people.
Wait. She their big romance scene happens. She's talking about stretch marks, and she's like, "I need you to go get some oil."
Yeah, this is great.
And this man shows up with every type of oil in the grocery store.
He's like, I didn't know what to get, so I got you olive, I got you avocado, I got you
He's
walnut.
I got some extra virgin olive oil. He's like, here's some baby. And she's like, the baby will be fine. And he massages her stomach, and then they do it.
Yeah, it's great. But they come up, okay, so they drink this extremely expensive bottle of framboise.
So Dolly is convinced that anything that has fruit in it cannot be bad for the baby.
And I mean, we are not talking about having a sensible glass of wine. If your doctor says it's fine in the way that they do in other parts of the world. This is not that. These people get trash bag drunk and then get in a car because their idea is once they get trash bag drunk is to break into Pricewaterhouse.
Dolly is too nervous because she's like, I don't know what the Oscar's going to be. I just need it. He's like, and old drunk Lester, who is the most sensible person heretofore. He's like, it should do. He gets off framboise. He gets rum and coke trashy off framboise.
Yeah.
He's like, what we should do? We should go to the Pricewaterhouse and we should steal the envelopes because there was a fire. There was a fire at Price. This is all this stupid. There's
a caper in the last 10th of this book that has no business being in here and is stupid and kind of amazing.
So they go in, they're like sneak.
And remember that she is
sneak,
enormously pregnant.
So they go in, they bamboozle the guy working there.
Yeah.
She's like, I've got to pay. They let her in. They find amazingly, they're going through, they keep the damn envelopes in a file of facts.
Yep.
And they're like, well, what would it be under? Would it be under O for Oscar? What about A for Academy Award? And finally, Dolly is like, what about E for envelope? And then that's where they find all the envelopes. And then they just put them in a big ass shopping bag and take them.
Well, because they hear somebody coming and they panic and they run. Yeah. So now they're like, well, shit, now what? Now we can't put him back. We can't pull the I gotta pee thing twice. So they don't know what to do. So she calls, Billy.
Lester's like, we're calling Maggie because everybody knows Maggie.
Yeah, and so Maggie's like, stay where you are. And of course, wherever they are, they're in a fancy hotel lobby. They keep getting drunk. They order more framboise.
But like,
and in fact, they didn't know what to give him, so they gave him one of those weird like layered drinks that you like pour over a spoon.
Oh my God.
Yeah, these people are hog drunk. These people are.
It's so amazing. So Maggie shows up. They're shit-faced. She's like, give me the bag. Just give me the bag. And she takes it. And what she does is she takes it back. But before she unseals all the envelopes, so she knows the answer to all of them. That's my girl. Yep. That's my girl.
And so she's able, so she's going to be the red carpet mic holder. She knows how to like tell her cameraman who to focus on, who to spend more time on it all. And then she does tell Billy, right? Billy and Vito?
She tells Vito.
And then so he knows what deals to make. Like what properties are over or undervalued or will be the next day. Meanwhile, Billy is concerned about her Oscar's dress. And so she gets down to Scruples and Valentine puts this dress on and she's like, it's not zipping up. And Billy's like, my waist has not moved a millimeter in the last 20 years. And Valentine's like, I don't know what to tell you. She
goes, oh, the waist is always the first thing to go. And she's like, what?
Like the fitters at Balmain all knew when a woman was pregnant.
She's like, oh, you're going to be a mama. And she's like, shut the fuck up, and runs away.
Yeah, and has a giant crisis.
She basically like puts on
a bathroom crisis. She has a bathroom crisis.
Seat. Like, yeah, I don't even know what the hell she wears to. Like, it was wild because I know exactly what Maggie's dress was because it was just tits. Mm-hmm. And then I know what Dolly's dress was because
it was a wine bag with an Elizabethan ruff.
Yeah.
The fancy one that you get when you don't really like somebody, but you had to give them a present. So you buy them a bottle of wine and then you're like, well, I can't just give them a bottle of wine. I should get one of them fancy fucking wine bags.
Yes.
It's that.
But you don't really know what Billy's looks like.
It's red. It's
because I don't think she ends up having to wear
she can't wear it because it won't fit. So girl, you sit down at the Oscars.
I was like, they have to give it some give, right?
If it's the kind of dress where a millimeter means it doesn't zip up, how were you going to spend the evening? Just propped up on a board?
God.
Oh my God. So, yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but she wore something that she already had, something she had in her closet. She re-wore something to the Oscars, Courtney.
I feel like she just put on some pants and was like, let's do it.
Fuck it, let's do it. Because what she does when she's having her breakdown in her bathroom, which of course is the size of a normal person's house, is like, well, she realizes that she hasn't taken her birth control pills for several months. And she's like...
Well, the best part is she's like, well... I've only missed 5 months of exercise class. I was like, well, girl, that'll do it. Like, I don't know about you, but I could gain like 20 pounds in a month. No big deal.
Well, and our theory kind of is maybe her spending more time with Dolly and actually getting a chance to use her skills and by doing something more than wearing clothes has made her feel like maybe more comfortable in her body and more.
And I feel like it was like less focus on like perfection. And the thing is, we also know that she's tall, so if she gained 10 pounds, it wouldn't be the worst thing.
But so
not like those short fatties.
That's right. The other thing she's freaked out again about, which is I think quite legitimate in her perspective, is that now she's seen Vito on a movie. And so, yeah, you're done with this movie, but of course he's got another movie that he's going to start shooting next week. So, like, what? It's going to be like this forever. And yeah, it is absolutely. If you marry somebody like this, it is going to be like this forever. What the fuck? Like, she's like, I can't be with this man. I'm never going to come first in his life. Like, she goes through this whole emotional journey.
Yeah, but then she also realizes, because she's like, well, the bambino, as she keeps calling it, will take precedence. And then she's like, well, I guess not really, because it'll also be my first thing. Mm-hmm. So she kind of like accept, like, it's a really nice, like, she just sort of like, I'll tell him tomorrow because he knows he's going to win the Oscar tonight.
Yeah.
We're doing this. Like, she's locked and loaded.
But this is when she starts thinking about like, And it's great because it's not just one moment. I mean, obviously she had enormous fun. Like that Scruples was like a hobby when she had the idea, when she did Scruples, it was like a thing to spend her time on. And she realizes like, wait, no, I could really do this. Like I can do this like not as like a rich lady's whatever. I can run a business empire. Yeah, that can be my thing. He's got
she's going to globalize Scruples.
Yeah, she's thinking about like the Scruples of Rio and how it would be different from the Scruples of Rome, and
Meanwhile, while she's having her like whatever, Spider and Valentine finally have their like big confrontation, and she's like, "I'm going to marry Josh Halman," and he's like, "The hell you are!" Like grabs her and he's like, "Nobody's gonna have you but me," and he kisses her, and it's very
I mean, it's the kind of thing, I hate the idea. I liked until that point that they were friends and co-workers, but I was happy when they ended up together.
But like wildly, the best romance in the whole thing is Lester and Dolly.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They're so healthy. Except for the fact where like she's pregnant and they drank the world. And then they got in a car.
Well, it was 1978, but...
That's about when we were conceived.
Yeah. So, so it's Oscar night. Everybody's in their dress. Everybody's looking good. And then it ends with like,
oh my God.
The cinematographer doesn't win, but the director wins. And then what happens is they start calling for Best Supporting Actress, and a ruckus occurs.
Well, and we should point out that Billy lent the Kimberly twins diamond earrings to Dolly.
Yeah. So Dolly's got the Kimberly twins on, and she's in her wine bag with a ruff. And all of a sudden, like, this commotion starts happening, and like they go off script, and like this is before, this is here. Like prior to this, the wildest thing that had ever happened at the Oscars was like Marlon Brando's, like the speech.
There was a streaker at some point, wasn't there?
Possibly,
yeah.
But then Dolly's up, like there's a ruckus. Lester's freaking out, and she's like, "Lester, it's fine. It's just the water breaking. We've got plenty of time." And they're like shuffling out, and like the back of her dress, she's like, "Oh, I've ruined this dress. Valentine is gonna be so upset."
She loses one of the Kimberly twins.
I lost one of the Kimberly twins, and like Lester's like, "Was it cubic?" She's like, "Why would Billy Ikehorn-Orsini have a
cubic zirconia?" She's like, 11 carat.
I don't know why I'm making her Southern, because I feel like she is Southern. I'll be like, she was like, "Somebody find that earring, y'all. Somebody find my purse."
And the tackiest thing in the world is that the cameraman is following her up the aisle, dripping amniotic fluid.
Yes, and like they're walking out. She's like, "It's gonna be, you're just talking," and people are cracking up. And then she ends up winning, and the director, accepts on her behalf, just laughing.
Yeah. Da 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 da.
And then it just kind of ends with Billy saying, "Well, I'll make sure to tell Vito tomorrow. Tonight is his night. He's gonna win."
Yeah,
and that's the end of it.
That's the end of it. So wow, what a fucking journey.
This book was crazy, and like
we've been going for 2 hours.
We don't know if they found the earring.
No, and I was left hanging about the fate of the Kimberly twin. I guess you had the remaining one reset as a giant.
Which Kimberly twin do you think it was?
The lefty or righty?
Was that the lesser? Like Kimberly twin sounds like such a bimbo name.
I know. It's like maybe it's like the people who were the Doublemint twins.
Yes,
were the Kimberly twins. I don't know. Question time. We know that was a lot, but like this book is a lot. I told you, it's a magnificent monstrous.
This book was wild.
But I don't know. There is so much to dive into. It is a rich text. So let's get started.
Hey, I'm ready.
Big dick energy or big dick energy?
Who's are we looking at?
All the dicks are big in this, dude. All the dicks are big in this.
Well, except for the one actress that got insulted, and
Oh yeah.
It
got around that he has a small dick. Yeah,
they call him baby penis.
Yeah. Other than that, like all the romantic interests in this are confident men who are actually great confident.
There's like no gross dudes, really.
I mean, the gross dudes are trying to caricatures and side characters. Yeah. They're not like legitimate romantic interests. Even
Josh wasn't awful.
No, he wasn't bad at all. He just didn't understand that, like, he thought he was doing what Valentine wanted, and Valentine was like, absolutely not. I told you that was a maybe.
And she was like, Valentine really was in love with Spider the whole time.
And also, it was a legitimate conflict of personalities that wouldn't, I mean, if he didn't do that right, he wouldn't have done it right, for the rest of everything.
Yeah.
But no, every guy in here is like a fantasy man.
Yeah, they're all great.
Yeah, fantastic. Honestly, yeah. That is strange about this book because it is regressive in so many ways.
It's really, what it is like, again, it's a weird monsterization and like self-hate that women put on ourselves over what your body is.
Yeah, whereas the men in this, okay, obviously the men in this are very objectified, but the men eat whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, the villain in this is fat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Would you talk shit with or about the heroine?
I really liked all the women in this book, aside from, Billy would talk all the shit about me.
Well, the thing is, Billy, you want to shake her throughout the book, but in this very kind of, it's a bit of a Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
That she's kind of a spoiled little baby about a lot of stuff. She makes mistakes. But by the end of it, when she was using her shorthand and I was so fucking proud of her. And when she just sat there in the bathroom and
what's
grew
really
the fuck
interesting
up.
is if you really think about it, at 19, she's in Paris. Getting skinny.
Mm-hmm.
At 20, she's like going to secretary school. At 21, she's married to a billionaire.
Yeah, it would be a billionaire.
And then at 27, or I guess at 28 or 29, she's a widow.
Mm-hmm.
And so really, she's never had to be anything or do anything on her own.
No.
I mean, aside from lose weight, but her greatest achievement.
Well, your brain needs fat. So maybe that's the problem. The early portions of the book is that
there is a really funny, and that, when her friend Jess comes to see her, she's like, let's go get fattening food. And, Billy's like, what? And she's like, oh yeah, sometimes you just need it. It'll make you lose even more weight, Yeah.
Take a fucking cheat day, girl. And then Billy's like, what? You can't do that because, and for Billy, she has fetishized this kind of iron will anorexic discipline.
She cannot, but yeah, all the dudes in it are pretty solid dudes.
Yeah. So all the women, they're okay. And this is going on. We'll just move on to Bechdel a bitch because it kind of goes with we talk shit with her about the heroine. There are no backstabbing bitches in this. To other women.
From Harriet.
Well, she backstabs a man. She doesn't backstab a woman.
It's true. I mean,
the women are all actually really supportive of each other.
The capital L lesbian cabal is that you can only backstab a man.
You had to swear to it.
Front stab a woman, backstab a man.
That's right. And Valentine and Billy have a lot of respect for each other, but they have a working relationship.
Yeah, they're not friends. It's really interesting.
Billy does not know where Valentine lives.
No. And she's even at one point, she's like, I don't know a lot about these two.
Yeah. They could be anybody. I guess they probably haven't.
It's so wild that just to get it, Billy's best friend ends up being kind of this insane disaster person who's just so wonderful.
Yeah, so all the women are great. All the women have great relationships to the other women in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Maggie and Billy, who are kind of set up to be foils of each other at one point, end up being not friends, but they
respect each other. Yeah, they're fine. So actually, and all those terms, this book is great.
Yes.
When it comes to consent, is this book more Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye?
There is absolutely no issue with consent.
No, none. And that's wild because books of this vintage.
Waiting. I was like, here we go.
Here we go.
There were a couple times that I was like,
Yeah. When Ikehorn has his 20-something-year-old secretary alone in a hotel, I was like, here we go. No.
Yeah, I think it was a couple it was a Billy, a Valentine situation. I was like, no, it ended up being fine.
No, it was cool. Yeah, all the sex in this is consensual.
Yeah,
there's a lie about a rape, but yeah absolutely.
That's only to cover up a murder.
Yeah, who among us? How badly are you judging your Mima for reading this book? Everybody's Mima read this book.
Yeah.
A lot of women of the age who have read this book saw it when I was reading it. And I'm like, I read that. As if it were a little naughty, but a fond memory. So, yeah, everybody's Mima read this book. Or had strong opinions about how it was trash and didn't read it.
Yeah.
Everybody knew about this book. This book has never been out of print. This book is enormous.
Yeah, it went to, #1 super quick.
It was an insane success.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, well, you couldn't judge or not judge your mama for reading this book because everybody's mama either read it or had.
I bet my mama. I bet she loved it.
I bet she did. With Scarlett Johansson being the movie, this is. It's problematic because, okay, for 1978, this is probably progressive in its portrayal of gay men.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like super stereotypical. You wonder if Judith Krantz like thinks she has a lot of gay friends, but like if her gay friends don't think that.
There's also like the sex between like the same sex, because you do get some scenes with homosexual sex depicted. It's kind of like it's depicted as kind of violent and a little bit more on this like perverse lens.
Yeah,
like there's no like we don't have in this book for all the whatever. Now she has like male gay hairdressers that she's friendly with and stuff, but there's no positive same-sex couple in it to like.
There is though, well, sort of like Prince Valentine's boss and his
right, but I'm talking about like people that you see depictions of actual.
Oh
like,
no, yeah,
sex
so that's the thing. Yeah, like the people who are actually having sex are not the same people who you see positive like particular depictions of their relationship.
And like Billy has like the woman that's like the film editor is part of the lesbian with a capital L cabal, and her and her girlfriend come and stay. But like the sex that you see is usually like male sex, and it's usually like part of a fight or something seedy and tawdry.
I forget if we did we talk about the glory hole situation?
Yes, we did. Okay, so we have that.
Told Judith Krantz about glory holes, but then didn't give her enough particulars.
Yeah,
she was trying to like imagine how this worked, and I guess did not get it right.
But like the sex between Sergio and that guy,
that's
like,
gross.
Is like, and
I mean it's not. Which would be fine if it like there were other portrayals, but there's not.
No, so like that is very problematic. And the other thing that like we have said that's problematic is the weight stuff. There would be a lot of women in fat suits in this movie.
Yes,
so many fat suits.
Yeah, the weight stuff is. I cannot. Really, you would have to read it to know how bad it is, and I don't want you to read that part of this book if you.
I think again, as somebody who has like disordered eating issues, the problem with it is that it reads to where it feels good.
It was very appealing.
Yes, like where you're like, this sounds nice. This sounds like a thing. And so like, again, and so somebody who's like coming from that kind of, whatever. So it is a problem. And then also like that these women, like Maggie, who is a megastar in her own right, is compared to having a Queen Elizabeth or Princess Margaret body.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like just being short and square with boobs and an ass, and like being a solid size 8 versus like Billy's 5'10" size 8. So there's a lot of like looking
bad body talk in this.
Like looking at people's bodies and how like the only person effortless to dress is Billy, of course. Everyone else is,
Well, and Valentine. Valentine has that kind of chic that they call chien.
Yeah, she's little. She's sprightly. She's
little and kind of I don't know. There's something about her that she can wear stuff in this very unstudied, rough way. This almost naive way.
She's essentially got like those champagne boobs that the French loves to talk about. Like she's just very
And I mean, they talk about these women's bodies in a way they don't talk about these men's bodies.
No, exactly. Like we're not getting that, but it's also just like the depiction of women as like their elegance and their worthiness and like essentially their like social capital rising or falling with
with their waistline,
with the way. And I guess I mean obviously like part of that is true, and especially then, but like it does like it's woof.
Yeah, woof. Yeah, there's some real bad stuff in this. All right. But on the other hand, there's also some really good stuff in this. So it's you can't separate it from itself. If it didn't have the weight stuff, it wouldn't be itself.
No.
However, don't be reading that if you have any doubts about your ability to handle it, because it is. I've never read something that was so pro Anna, quite frankly, in a published book by a major publisher. You're not leaving the house looking like that. Oh my God, there's so many outfits.
There's so many outfits.
The second you see Billy on like page 2, she's wearing this fucking amazing outfit. It is a sable line. Okay, so no fur, it's not my thing. But okay, so she's wearing a sable lined cape over, of course, she's wearing the Kimberly twins. She's got her riding breeches on. She's got like this, oh my God, it was fabulous. I wanted every bit of it.
Yeah, there's so many little outfits. Like, and again, it's like there's too many to name or to really have in your head.
They're all very much of the time, but it sounds so good.
Margaret's dress, I really like. Margaret's like Oscar dress is essentially just like a really simple like chiffon sheath that's like super low cut. It's black and it like essentially like it's one of those like it's an Ellen Barkin tits situation.
Yeah,
where her like is everything but nip. And then, like, her hair is up and she's not allowed to have any makeup or, like, any jewelry or anything like that on. That was my favorite of the dresses. Because I could see it.
And Spider was so, like, no, you're going to want to do it. Don't do it. Because this is the thing. A, you want to show off your tits. B, you want to, if you put on the jewelry, it'll be tacky. Without the jewelry, it'll be classy.
Yeah. Because Valentine's like, I will be watching. Do not do it.
It's great. Yeah. Yeah. So, there's, of course, this is all about outfits, but y'all need to read it for the outfits. The outfits are amazing.
There's so many outfits. Again, I did enjoy the one that Billy fell in the mud to.
Yeah. That was great.
Her white linen.
It was very, honestly, it was very Coldwater Creek, honestly.
Yes, it was very Coldwater.
Yeah, I guess that's what she figured you were meant to see now. She had some jeans made by her, general, like her dressmaker.
Yes.
Yeah, like, wow.
Like, she couldn't even just have just some jeans.
No, she had to, have them made by... So, would your 12-year-old self have dog-eared any pages?
Oh, absolutely.
Paunchy globes, baby.
Paunchy globes.
This book is not as dirty as it thinks it is, or as I guess people thought it was in 78, but it's pretty dirty.
It is dirty. And again, you get a weird glory hole situation. Yeah. I've been like, what's happening? But we also get people going downtown.
Yes. There's a lot of oral in this.
Yeah, and not just male oral. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of just going downtown on females.
Yeah. And there's we talked about the gay sex being kind of violent and having that lens, but it has gay sex in it.
Yeah, it does have. Yeah, it's got it in there. The sex is pretty good. She writes a good sex scene.
Yeah. It's
we got Lester rubbing Dolly down with baby oil.
Somebody having
sex.
Yeah,
with a woman who is 8 months pregnant.
Yeah,
like she's not even just a little bit pregnant. Like she's full on.
Yeah. No, honestly, the sex in this is. One of the reasons people read it, I assume.
Yeah.
What pairs nicely with a dumpster fire? It's got to be like French champagne, right? Or the framboise.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely framboise. Which framboise is really good.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Framboise.
But if you are super pregnant, you should not, A, drink an entire bottle of it and then B, drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then steal PricewaterhouseCoopers Oscar envelopes and then not know what to do about them.
That was amazing. Like, did they not have like a security guard? I guess
not a good one. I mean, nobody was going to be stupid enough to do what they did.
No. I guess our last question too is: should a person or should a human being in the 21st century read this?
Yes. With caution.
Caveats.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you should wear your asbestos gloves. You should do it under a fume hood. No,
it was a lot of fun.
I loved this book. It was delightful. Except when it super wasn't. So
I mean, I would go to Cracker Barrel, aka Scruples.
Yeah. You think they would know we don't have any money then when we walked in?
Okay. I mean, we could buy one of those Waterford tins filled with butterscotches.
Buy the peg game.
How much for this crystallized peg game, please?
If you have to ask.
How much for the bone china cup and ball? Do you have a slinky made from gold leaf?
This book is selling you this amazing fantasy.
Yes, it is.
Quite frankly, and it's a women forward fantasy of a place where you are taken seriously, and it is all about your pleasure and how you feel about yourself. It's just that to gain admittance to this place, you have to lose 100 pounds.
Yeah, you can't. No fat bitches here.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing. I would honestly say that the only thing that should stop you from reading this book and having a blast of a fucking time is the whole literally eating disorder stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, and honestly, if you're okay with just some fat talk, Just skip the part in France, okay? Just skip the part in France.
I mean, this bitch is in France and just
I'm picturing, that Mickey Mouse cartoon. I think it's like the 7-in-1 Blow one, but it might be Jack and the Meat's fault. I don't know. But where they're cutting the slice of the bread so thin that they're like transparent. They're just like slowly sliding over. That's what she's eating.
She's getting that good not having to deal with the FDA butter.
Shit. And she doesn't eat any of it.
She don't have champagne. What are you doing?
She drinks a little bit of white wine.
I do. It's I just got accustomed to the feeling of being hungry.
Yeah.
Bitch, yeah. That's my problem, too. I'm always hungry. Just reverse. No, so, the book is delightful. And this has been our magnus opus.
There is a movie.
There is a movie.
We're gonna have to watch the movie. Yeah. We may even do an episode just about that.
So we might, we only gave you one episode this month, but it's a long ass episode because this book is bonkers.
And I know you were like, how much can it possibly be? No, trust me, it is like the war in remembrance of fashion.
That's crazy. Auntie Globes.
It's the shogun of fat shaming.
There was another thing they said in it that was just there's so many lines that I'm just like, what the hell are you people talking about?
It's cocaine. Cocaine wrote those lines, Courtney.
Yes, cocaine. But this has been Bodice Tipplers. You can find us for however long Twitter lasts, B-Tipplers. You can find us on Facebook at Bodice Tipplers. You can find us on Instagram, Bodice Tipplers, and Patreon. If you want to throw a couple bucks our way, patreon.com/Bodice Tipplers.
Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts.